Hi, this is Solar on Solar Life. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I will be writing, but first in a video form. And the title of the book would be The 7 Secrets of a Successful Inventor. The 7 Secrets of a Successful Inventor. That is, be happy, be curious, be imaginative, full of purpose, full of faith, love, and hope. I hope you remember this. Being full of purpose, faith, love, and hope. All right? So I'm an inventor. As you all know, I've invented this, which is, I think, the most important invention I have, which is a turbine. And you see here, you have the compressor, you have the combustion chamber for which you burn propane or natural gas through here, and then you have the expander, and then this would be expelling the hot gas while spinning the turbine to generate electricity, and you can use it for direct propulsion, or you can use it to turn electric motor for driving cars, or for driving drones, or for boats. And this can also be used as an air conditioner. So instead of having heat injected in the center by means of burning a fuel, you inject water into the center. It cools down the hot compressed air. It will come back out the other way, being very cold. It also can be used as a solar desalination device. You use solar water heater, and then you would be able to evaporate water, and then use the compressor to compress the low pressure steam to get back the heat of condensation as well as the heat of compression, and then you can evaporate water using just solar energy. That's very cool stuff. So today I'm going to focus on what I have learned through my process of invention. I think there are 7 elements of invention. The first 3 involve attitude, and the last 4 would involve being purposeful, being full of faith, full of love, and full of hope. Okay? I hope you would appreciate that because I think this would teach you a lifestyle, not just about invention, but in general for life. These things are very important. Now, let me just start with the first secret. The first secret is the be happy. Be happy. And I think you owe it to yourself to be happy. And I like happy people. And I always tell people that people who work for me are always happy. First, I only hire happy people. And if they're not happy, I fire them. So everybody who works for me are happy. Well, the reason why I want happy people to work for me is that happy people tend to be very active. They tend to be, almost hyperactive because, if you see a depressed person, the person would be slow, would be sleeping a lot, and also would not be taking initiative. And depression is a natural mechanism for people to say, hey, back off. Don't try something that may not succeed. So I don't work with depressed people because depression is really a sign saying that the person is not very active. Now, make sure when I talk about be happy, it doesn't mean that happiness is tied to pleasure, okay? It's not hedonism. It's not just like if you're not happy, then pop some pills or, shoot some person on a video game, then you become happy. That's like you seek for happiness by increasing your dopamine level in your blood, in your brain. That's not what I call happiness. That's more like hedonism. Now, if you know that the opposite of hedonism is stoicism, and Stoics are basically taking life as it is, and they would accept pain as part of life. And Stoicism sometimes would refer to people who practically exercise being ascetic, being harsh on themselves so that they would attain a level of happiness. Now it's kind of interesting because from a psychology point of view, hedonism achieve happiness temporarily, and then afterwards they would invariably would crash. For example, you play a day or night of video game, and afterwards you will feel depressed. But on the other hand, being stoic involved, forcing yourself to go through some sort of painful process, and then you would become, afterwards you would kind of on a dopamine high. A good example of that would be, if you really want to be happy, you need to do a lot of physical exercises. By physical exercises, it really, your body's going through a painful process of struggling with the amount of stress that you're putting yourself into physically. So afterwards, your body would release a certain amount of dopamine so that you will become, adjusted to it. So people have this so-called dopamine high if you do what I usually do, what is called interval training. So you just very intensely run or swim, for my case, for like 2 minutes, and then you do slow exercise for another 3 minutes, and then you do that double, rigorous versus slow exercise back and forth for like 4 times or 5 times, 4 cycles or 5 cycles altogether. Then you feel actually your energy level would rise up quite a bit. Now for me, I jump into cold water even in this sort of weather, and then I swim for like half an hour or maybe 20 minutes when it's too cold. That really increased my metabolic level, and I feel very happy afterwards because my body is struggling with the cold, and so it's kind of the way that you want to increase your activity level, you want to increase your level of happiness. That's what you do. Now I told last time that I one time went through a colonoscopy without having anesthesia, and it was so painful. I mean, the doctor at the Mayo Clinic was pumping so much air into my colon that I literally had to hold onto the rail of my bed, and then almost and the doctor then reduced the pressure somehow. And afterwards, I was bubbling because my body has so much dopamine. I was very happy. So my point is, I'm not trying to say you should do colonoscopy without anesthesia, but rather what you should do is you should practice delayed gratification by putting your mind and your body through some sort of stress, and then afterwards you would be rewarded naturally, and then you would have a much higher metabolic rate. Your thinking will be a lot faster, and you even walk faster that way, and you would be more happy. So I think being happy is extremely important. And when I do my invention, I usually just have a problem. I wake up very early in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then I would start in my bed for an hour thinking about my research problem, and then I shut myself totally off. I don't go to internet, and then I try to solve the problem, and then afterwards I go to the swimming pool, and then I would sit next to the swimming pool trying to solve the problem, and when I got a fairly good hunch of the problem, I jump into the cold water. Now I shock my system, and when you're exercising, blood flow to the brain because it's so cold. The blood would need to warm up the vital organ, which is your brain. And blood is what drives the thinking process because the metabolism in your brain will help you to really be very at the same time. I mean, I literally, when I swim, particularly in the slow cycle, I'm solving the problem, and sometimes I think so much that I forget how many laps I've done. So I think I'm telling you, it's important to be happy because being happy involves making your mind very active, and being successful very often is a matter of how much energy you put into the thing and how intensely you work on it. So just be happy, and I'm telling you the secret of being happy. All right. So the second thing I'd like to talk about, the 7 secrets of a successful inventor is to be curious. Now, I'm a very curious person since I'm very young. And I never learned things through my teacher or through the school. I learned everything myself because when I see something, I would just keep on asking questions. Why? And it makes me happy because when you are very curious towards things and you get the answer, I mean, it really feeds your brain with pleasure. I mean, just very much like when Archimedes discovered how to solve the problem of flotation. He had the Eureka moment. Eureka is just like almost like instant euphoria when you say, "Hey, I see the light. I saw the connection. I see something that's totally new." And that's also part of the process of being funny, because funny or humor involves seeing something in an unexpected manner. So perspective is everything when it comes to invention. So very often, it's not so much the solution that you are trying to look for, but rather the question you want to raise. And if you raise the right question by being curious, then the answer usually comes very natural to you. So I usually don't try to solve a problem by, hey, I have a well-defined question that I want to answer, but and then I try to find the answer to the question. What I usually do is I would look at the problem and look at it from many different angles to see what's the difference these different perspectives would give to me, and then I find the difference between these perspectives, and then I would see, hey, there's a new way to do things. I can ask new questions, and once I ask the right question, the answer will pop up. So it's not a matter of answering, getting the answer, but asking the right question. Because I feel that, answers come easy when you pose the question in the right way. Okay, so focus on questions and raise your level of curiosity. Now, my children are very curious, and they travel the world, and they would do a lot of what I call crazy stuff. But I think it's important to be very curious. Now, one way I when I first went to MIT, I spent a lot of time at the bookstore looking for comic book. And I find that comic book actually is very useful for the creative process, because when you are being amused by the comic, then you would find that usually a joke involves an unexpected perspective that you find it funny, because most people don't see things that way, and when you tell the joke, then you see something different. So jokes are a very good way to really stimulate your mind. It also makes you happy too, because once you hear a good joke, you smile, you laugh, right? So that's all tied together. Now, the third thing that I would say, that be imaginative, right? Just like Einstein said, it's not so much knowledge that is important, but imagination is far more important. Now, according to Confucius, there should be a balance between learning and thinking. I would say there's a difference between following what other people have done by learning, or inventing something new. So according to Confucius, he said, if you learn and don't think, you're being lazy. If you think and don't learn, then sometimes it's futile, because you don't get the experience of other people. But for me, I kind of disagree quite a bit with Confucius, because I think it's far more important to imagine and not so much be prescribed a particular framework of looking at things. For example, when I invent this turbine, I know almost nothing about jet engines. All right. So, and in fact, I'm very happy that when I just look at the problem of, okay, I have concentrated solar power. How I'm going to use the intense heat to really drive a heat engine. And for a long time, I was not very happy with the steam engine that I bought. And there's also the Stirling engine that one of my employees used to work on. I wasn't very happy with it. And of course, it's very hard to buy a jet engine, and it's very hard to really inject heat into a jet engine. in order to fire up the turbine. So almost it was, I wouldn't say reinventing the car, because what I found is that my perspective is so very different, that I don't follow the trends of other people.